So David, I thought it'd be a good idea for people to get to know a little bit about the two of us. And so I thought we would start with your professional background and how you got to do the things that you're doing now.
Okay. So I'm an adolescent medicine doc. Pediatrics is my base specialty. And I also have sort of a degree in the public health. And so I got into this because I wanted to work with adolescents. And during my adolescent fellowship, I realized through a number of different experiences that adolescent medicine was synonymous with adolescent female health, and that we were leaving the guys out of it. And long story short is that I ended up becoming the medical director of the Young Men's Clinic, which had existed before, but I've been there now 19 years. And when it was first started, it was 4 hours a week, and now we've grown.
Are there any other clinics in the country that are doing the kind of work that you're doing?
No, they're individuals that focus on young men around the country in various ways, but not specifically a young men's clinic like we've established here.
Well, and one of the problems is just getting the guys in.
True.
And overall. So what's the marketing you use, or how do you manage that?
One, we've had a footprint for over 2 decades in New York. And so not only does our hospital system know that we exist, but clinicians in the neighborhood know we exist, coaches in the neighborhood know we exist, families, and then sort of it's word of mouth from the guys who see us, and word of mouth through the females that go to our partner clinic, the family planning clinic. And we're on all the sort of Department of Health and citywide sort of lists for services for young men.
Right, I see. Well, I got into this work quite by accident. I went to law school to save the world. I wanted to go into public interest law. And when I was in law school, I was offered this position with a lobbying firm that represented schools of public health and other health organizations. And that's how I got into this, it's through lobbying. And since then, I've worked for other organizations, physician-based organizations mostly. But when I was with the Association of Reproductive Health Professionals in the 90s, I became interested in men's health because it was reproductive health, but it was mostly women's health. And people at the time said, yeah, that's a really great idea. We need to do something about men's health, but what is that? And what does that mean? And so...
so you didn't give me a call until the early 2000s.
Yeah.
What happened?
I spent some time working on the concept and perfecting it, yeah. Well, about 2000 was when I had an opportunity, and I decided I'm just going to do this because I wanted to do it for a long time. So that's when I reached out to some folks in reproductive health like yourself that had done work in the field that would know of others, and that's how I kind of got involved in this. And it's frankly been pretty exhilarating because, as you know, there aren't that many people that are doing work in this area, and so everything that we start to do is new, and we're breaking new ground. So it's really exciting work.
Yeah, it's been a very exciting time, and the impact has been pretty tremendous as far as even getting people together and energizing them around adolescent male health, adolescent and young adult male health.
So what you would consider some of the greatest challenges that you have in the work that you do?
So the clinical space isn't really challenging anymore. It's really, we've established sort of ourselves as far as the Young Men's Clinic. It's always been sort of the challenge of figuring out how to get the word out, tell the story of working with young men and what the issues are in plight. And I thought that initially it was when our culture sort of thinks about young men, it's not a sort of usually a sympathetic ear. You can cry over babies You can sort of think about with sympathy and empathy around the plight of women in health and young women and adolescent girls, but that's not the same context in general that we do around young men. So I think that has initially was the challenge, and even sort of having young men be seen in family planning contexts across the country initially sort of really faced a lot of anger in sort of bringing guys into the fold. Yes,
oh, that's interesting.
There were two camps of thought. One was that it was going to take away funding from, divert funding from female interests in sort of sexual and reproductive health. And the other is that it was going to, one is the clinicians in general went into family planning to be in women's health. And so to incorporate men was sort of shattering their sort of niche that they had created for themselves.
That's even like I've heard with school nurses, for example.
Yeah.
That they want to be able to provide services to young men, but they're not trained to do it. I mean, first of all, they don't know what that means, but second of all, they don't know how to interact with young men, and that has to be a large part of the work that you do, is being able to speak the same language and communicate with each other.
Very much, yeah. So even our medical schools and nurse practitioner schools pay less attention to working with adolescent and young adult males. We do a lot more work with adolescent females and young adult females around contraception and around birth control and pregnancy prevention. But until recently, we hadn't really engaged males at all.
So what made you decide to agree to be chair of this organization?
Working with you.
And me with you. Yeah, right. That works.
So what do you want to be most remembered for?
Oh, I have always believed, as Pollyannish as it may sound, that we were all put on this earth to make a difference. And we each need to find out what that is. And I want the world to be a better place when I leave it. And whatever that might mean. I just don't want to be remembered personally for what I've done, but that I've made a difference.
Cool.
And you?
Ditto. But I think that I cry at all the adolescent movies, where there's a mentor that sort of helps an adolescent sort of get to a better place.
Right.
And I think that's partly personally because I want to be that adult to do that. And so I'm not sure if I have, but it's just the context that I'm still wanting to make that happen, that I sort of play a key role in a young person's life to make them be in a better place.
And you're finding that your guys are pretty loyal and
no, pretty loyal.
They're pretty loyal,
and they're pretty vocal. So I know I'm doing something.
Yeah.
So I'm not far from what I want to do, but I don't cry at my own stuff.
So.